Let's talk tension on the Bernina 560 sewing machine. Now, couple things. Tension is more the balance of your needle thread and your bobbin thread. But because this machine has considered automatic tensions, let me walk you through just a couple things before we really get into understanding it and even adjusting it when we need to. Now, tension does get blamed for a lot of things in the sewing machine world. So if something doesn't go wrong, people always say, oh, the tension's off. Well, it could be that the machine's not clean, the quality of thread that they're using isn't the best choice. There's a lot of other variables that are brought on by our own wrongdoing that could have made the machine work much better if we had just taken the time, bought quality thread, cleaned the machine from time to time, have it serviced. All those things make a difference on whether the machine has tension issues. It's usually the last thing that I actually change. And the only time I do change the tension is usually when I'm working with two different threads, one in the needle and a different way to thread down in the bobbin. So everything's not as balanced as it's originally planned. The machine is set so for the same thread, top and bottom. But let me show you just a few things before we get started. When you're on a stitch, so we'll start with the straight stitch. If I touch the eye for information, I do see that the tension is 4.0. Okay, nice and balanced. That's kind of a nice middle of the road. But if I choose a zigzag, that tension is 4.5. That's just a default setting for a zigzag. Now it doesn't really change if I make it wider or narrower, but each stitch has its own tension kind of number associated with it. So I'm not even going to try to guess what each of these are actually set at. It's just a nice ballpark. That's the beauty of having a built-in tension setting. The machine can be set for things that are normally adjusted a certain way for certain stitches. So for example, if we go over to some decorative stitches and peek at its tension, you see that it's a little bit less. That means that we want the top thread to pull to the back side, because right now, instead of it being 4, the bobbin tension is now tighter than the top, and that's going to pull those threads to the back side. Now, if that doesn't make sense, the nice thing is if you know you've been using good quality threads and you've had your machine serviced, if you don't see a nice balanced stitch, you can work with it. Now, if you don't remember which way to go, one makes it worse and one makes it better. Now, when you do start to change the tension, I would recommend that if you're changing it, go ahead and go from 4 to 5. Now, you'll notice that there's lots of increments in between there. So changing it just a hair, it might not be visible actually on the fabric. So if you're going to change it up so you can actually see, did I go the right way or did I need to go the other way? So this is really a nice little picture too. If you can kind of visualize what is happening with your two threads, the red one being your needle thread and the black one being your bobbin thread, that you're seeing that if you lower the tension on the top, then the top red thread will be brought to the back side. Or vice versa, if you have the opposite issue where the bobbin thread's coming to the top, actually, no, that would be incorrect. But you can definitely make a difference just by changing the number and do it by a whole number. So let's now take a look at some stitches. Oftentimes when we do service work, we will set the machine for a zigzag in a nice wide and long settings. Doesn't really matter which one's there. And I also have changed my thread. So I have blue thread in my needle and I have pink thread in the bobbin. So let's see what we get just by doing normal setting of tension, but with the wider settings. Okay. So what we're seeing here is that the pink thread is the bobbin and it's pulling the blue thread to the back just a little bit. So that is really what you want to see on those wider stitches. Now, if I want this to be just as balanced as it is on the top, what I'm finding is that the pink is too tight. So what I need to do, and remember, you're always adjusting just the top. So if I was to go ahead and go from 4.5 to 5.5, let's see if we noticed any difference. So again, there is a little balance. Now, if that was the wrong way, it would have just made it worse. But let's just see where we are with this slight change. See how there is less of the blue dot showing, where here it was almost pulling in almost like an arm from each side, but now those are a little bit more consistent. So once again, if I want to change it, kind of go up another number, and I could actually balance any stitch. So the you cannot tell what side I sewed from, the top or the back. So let's just see how close I've gotten. So if I get it really perfect, I should see blue on the top and pink on the back. A little dot is just fine. That would be actually totally suitable, being that this is a full 9mm stitch width. I wouldn't have to do that much altering when the stitch would be more narrowed or more of the decorative kind. So there are things that you can do to make tension not be an issue. We kind of covered that by taking care of your machine. Check out our video on cleaning it. And then also the quality thread that you pick with your machines, and also having your machine serviced on a regular basis. And don't forget, check those needles and make sure you have the right needle in for the thread that you are using.